Welcome back to Crossout, where today's video will be all about the new missile, the Flute. The new ATGM Flute is a weapon that you can obtain if you buy the new pack, which comes in two different versions, the Assault Force Charlie 7 Pack Deluxe or the regular version. Depending on which one you buy, you will also potentially get this new garage here if you buy the deluxe version, as well as some extra armor parts, a new CK4 APC wheels. Let's load it up here. There we go. As well as a few stickers and some items that you get in either pack. So depending on what you want to get, you can get either of those two packs. And also the deluxe version comes with a bigger coin pack, but it is also for a pretty substantial amount of money compared to the regular version. But it's, in general, packs are better deals than buying coin packs, for example, just for the record. But today's video will be about the Flute, not about the pack. So what are we going to look at today? Well, first of all, we're going to look at my general thoughts on this weapon. Then we're going to talk about the hitbox, the damage compared to the Pyre, which is the closest weapon compared to this one, or in relation to the Flute. And then we'll try to look at the timer for the flight when you fly this, because it has a perk that says for each second of the missile's flight time, the explosive damage increases by 10%. And then we're going to look at some of the fusions and how these fusions can also benefit, because the Flute can get the fusion that is called extra flight time, and this will also benefit the damage that the missile can deal. So some interesting things to talk about today. Let's get right into it. First of all, the Flute here, in my opinion, is definitely a strong weapon. Stack these, either 4 or 6 of them, on a small car where you utilize the energy. It's just 2 energy per piece. So throwing 4 of these on a build is no more than just 8 energy, which you will get quite far with. There we go. I only have 4 on my promo account, so this is all we can get. But just 4 of these, fire them, can deal quite a substantial amount of damage, and they are, in my opinion, quite superior to Pyres. And also, for example, the tow renders the tow mildly useless, in my opinion, because of the simple fact that you can control these. You can shoot people down, even though people, for example, cloak. The easiest counter to a Pyre is just to cloak up, and if you then go ahead and you cloak, well, then the Pyre is no longer a threat, unless you cloak right before it hits you. But with this, you're still able to either switch target to someone else, or you will be able to simply just see if you can predict where the cloaked person has gone, and then you will still be able to deal damage to him. Also, this is a weapon where you can, for example, hammer people down from above, like this. If you want to do, you can do some cheeky plays here. If you want to send them, curve them around different structural parts or different structures before you strike people down with them, there's so many possibilities. You know, we can be like, oh yeah, we're targeting a dude over here, and then bam, nah, we want to go for this guy instead, so we just keep aiming it at him, and then he's dead, even though the missiles were all the way over here. There are so many things that you can do with this missile here. It's quite dope. We didn't really get to do anything there, but it's definitely a strong weapon, in my opinion, and also a weapon that I think can have its right in Clan Wars context, because the very good thing about these weapons is also the fact that you can armor these up quite well. There are still a few limitations to it. For example, we cannot slap it inside our build like this and fire it. That does not work. But we can armor this quite well. For example, we can point them up like this, hide it behind our cabin, and still be able to shoot out the missile like we would usually. We can also fill these in very tight gaps between Goliath tracks. For example, you only need 1 block of visibility for this missile to work, and then you can basically shoot them out anywhere. So in a Goliath sandwich, this definitely has some functionality. Let's get this down here again and get the Flutes back onto the build. Well, the first thing that we want to look at here is the hitbox, and especially compare the hitbox to the Pyre, because interestingly enough, these weapons look very much alike, but the hitboxes are not really alike. If we look at this from this side and we try to align the camera with this line right here of the Pyre, as you can see, we don't really have any hitbox for the Pyre here, but there is plenty of hitbox left on the Flute here. So the Flute actually has a tiny bit bigger hitbox compared to the Pyre. Let's get down here and align this. As you can see, if we go here, then the Pyre has quite a substantial amount of air here, which is not really a part of the Pyre, but it's still a part of the hitbox. So all of this empty air here will catch any strafing shots or any wild shots that might come flying towards you, maybe not was supposed to hit you, which could have been avoided if it flew through here, but it will not because the Pyre has a bit of a big hitbox at the back. But besides that, at the front, the Flute, it just has overall a more optimized hitbox, as you can see. So you get a bit of a bigger hitbox here in the front because of all of these pieces, and all in all it seems like the hitbox is just a tiny bit bigger than the Pyre. But as you can see, for sizing references, they have the same amount of space required in order to fit into a build. They need the same amount of room in front of them in order to shoot, and they will take up almost exactly the same space. They will take up the exact same space, actually. Looking at the stats of these two, if we just compare those quickly, and then we have the Pyre with 52 durability, 2 energy drain, and 81 mass. For the Flute, we have 47 points of durability, 2 points of energy again, and 81 kilograms of mass. This actually adds up to the fact that the Pyre has a ratio of 0.64 durability for each kilogram it weighs, where the Flute only has, what did I write down here, 0.58 or 0.58 ratio of durability to each kilogram of mass. So basically the Flute loses a bit of durability even though it has the same mass. I don't know if this is to compensate for a more optimized or a hitbox, or if it's just a bit random, but it's always in general a good idea to measure your, especially for armor parts, try to calculate the ratio between durability and mass for each part when you're building. And I think it's also interesting to look at when you have two weapons that are exactly the same, why they do not have the same durability. But this could be because of the general, if they take something like sizing into consideration, if they have an algorithm that calculates this or a formula that calculates this, then they have some sort of a sizing compared to it. Maybe it's the overall size of the hitbox that will be taken into consideration when they calculate the durability. Maybe something along those lines, because otherwise I don't know why, but it's fine. They are pretty much identical. There's nothing that will make a huge difference. 5 points of durability won't save you much either way. Great. Well, looking at the damage here, first of all, we just want to go ahead and look at the base damage of it. And we want to get as close as possible, because something interesting about the perk here, which we read out before. Let's see. Oh, we actually need to mount it just maybe in the front here, so it shoots out a bit closer to the humpback cabin. But basically what this missile does, and I'm pretty sure that it has a base damage of 100. There we go. This dealt 102 if we go a bit further back. And the reason that I'm saying this is because, as you know, the perk said for each second flight time, the missile deals 10% extra damage. But if we go this way, you can see 108. But we actually didn't go all the way back in order for the missile to stack up 1 second of the perk. So I am assuming that each millisecond of this missile's flight time will actually be calculated towards the total damage. And you will just have a counter at the bottom to keep track of for how long the missile has actually been flying, also to kind of state your stacks. But in reality, half a second of flight time will give you 5% damage increase, where 1 second will give you 10, so 1.5 seconds will give you 15%. So it's just a linear increase in damage on the missile, which is what it seems, because you could see there 112 points of damage, even though we had like halfway in between. If the base damage was 110, then 1 second of flight time should give us 110, which it did not. And if we go away for, you know, say 2 seconds, then it should be 120. But as you can see, there is like insecurity in this. And I'm pretty sure that's just because it counts from the second it starts flying, and then it just keeps going. What? I think okay. We have a new NPC in the garage, just for those of you who doesn't know, which is the Drone Apocalypse NPC. And he just crashed into that thing and gave us a coupon because the game registered that I killed him. But nevertheless, we have the missile's base damage, which is 100, maybe 101, 102. It's pretty hard for me to certainly confirm. Then we will have to, maybe if we mount the weapon, something like this. And then we go straight to the cabin and see if we can just shoot it as close as possible, because we wanna see here. Get all the way in there. Yep, definitely 100 base damage, and then it just starts counting. So 0.2 seconds of flight time will give you 102 damage. It scales linearly for each second you fly. But if we try to get the missile here as close to possible as 10 as we can, then we should also deal 200 damage. Let's see, where are we right now? Just about 9, and we dealt 176, which is interesting again, because that is not truly 100%, which I cannot find a reason for this. Once again, let's see. We had around 9.5 there, so our damage should have been something along the lines of 195 if it stacks 10% for each second flown, flighted, I don't know. For each second of the missile's flight time, the explosive damage increases by 10%, and we have somewhat confirmed that after 1 second it's 110. So I don't know if there is some sort of diminishing return on the perk, or you know, diminishing, not return, but diminishing, diminish. I think we just call it diminish. I'm not a foreign English speaker, so I'm not 100% sure, but you get the memo of what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, it's still interesting to see the fact that this missile actually doesn't really deal. There we go, 7, 8, 8.5. So that should have been 185. That was 168. It can also be the fact that we're hitting the corner of the cabin, which still wouldn't make any sense because we should deal full damage no matter where we hit it. So maybe further analysis of this is required, but for now we have established the base damage and what it should deal. So it should deal 200 damage at the full flight time. It doesn't though, but they say that for each second it flies, it deals 10% extra, and we get the counter down here, which is pretty much equivalent to 1 second, which it looks like. Just gonna put a timer in next to this, but if we just keep the missile flying here, let's see, bam, it hits 10 and then it goes out, which hopefully the timer also shows that it was indeed 10 seconds. This tells us that the base flight time is 10 seconds, meaning that we can get up to a total of 100% extra damage on this thing. Hello, Mr. G. Let's give him a hunk back. There we go. Meaning that if we confuse this thingy, let's see. Bam. There we go. We can get max projectile flight time plus 1 second, meaning that we can also stack this 11 times. Let's just give it a look to confirm. As always, let's send this out, see where it goes. By the way, this new garage is absolutely amazing. Don't know what you guys think about it, but I definitely think it looks really good. Bam, there we go. So we can get extra stacks. And just to confirm, let's check the damage on this bad boy now that we have the extra second of flight time. Hopefully, can we bring it back here before it... Oh, that is going to be close. Oh my god, that was so close. It's always tricky trying to do this. I think if we bring it back right about now, then give us a good hit here. Oh, that is close. 187, and that was literally on the money pretty much. So 187 seems to be the max damage even when you have an extra flight time or an extra second of flight time to it. So it's not truly 100% extra, which is interesting. Again, looking at the perk here, it is what it is. There's probably some sort of an explanation to it, which I have not been able to find. Another thing though that I think is worth having a look at is if we take this missile back out into the track here, before we start comparing it to the Pyre, to the damage of the Pyre, which we will also do. I just want to look at the explosion radius of the weapon as well. So we want to go ahead and line ourselves up. I've made a nice little structure here of 8 of these parts here, which is probably the lowest health part that you can get at all in this game. And I stacked up 8 on either side to see what the radius of the explosion is. So if you shoot this, this is pretty much dead center. There we go. As you can see, we take off 6 in one side and 5 on the other side, which tells me that we were a bit more aimed towards this side. It is 1 in a million to get it straight in the middle, which is why we will always see this taking off one less part on the other side. But this tells us that the explosion radius is about 6. And if we try that again, bam, you can see we still take off 6 this way and 5 the other way. So pretty much 6, it's hard to show 6 on either side, but you get the memo. 6, let's just do it one more time just to confirm. And we will move on to the damage test. There we go. And again, we took 6 off in the one side. So it's looking very good. Now we know that the damage is 100, but what about the Pyre? Because we want to see how much damage the Pyre deals as well, just to see if it is worth it to run one or the other. And we can also just check the reloading time of it here. We don't have a radar on it, so we probably have to go quite close. So let's shoot the Pyre there, 112, and if we shoot this, 106. But worth noting is that the Pyre has a perk that says homing missiles track the closest target to the aiming cone and adjust the flight trajectory accordingly. Now, one thing that is actually with the Pyre here is that the weapon's functionality, weapon's basic functionality is actually also the perk, which I think is interesting, because if anything, then the Flute should have the perk stating that it will go wherever the laser points, but it doesn't. It has a perk above that, which I think is something that they should look into. We actually have a lot of weapon with the same situation here as the Pyre, where you get like a weapon perk that just states what the weapon actually does. So I think they should maybe look into changing a lot of perks. Let's just look at the reloading time here while we talk about this. And it looks like we have pretty much identical reloading speed. So they will, in general, on close range, the Pyre will be able to output a higher DPM, where if you shoot long range and you let your missiles fly, then you will be able to achieve a higher DPM with the Flute, which also requires you to hit all your shots, which is probably harder with the Flute since you have to track down your targets with it. But all in all, on close range, Pyre has the higher DPM. On close or in long range, Flute has the higher DPM. Finally, let's just give a look to the fusions of this. I'm typing in fusion, wow, Flute, and let's look at the fusions that you can achieve with this thing. Durability, mass resistance, total damage, and the reliability, that is the same for pretty much everything in this game. And then we have power, explosion damage, explosion radius, and reloading time. Ammo reserves plus 15, missile turn speed plus 15, and projectile flight time plus 1 second. So there are a few different things that you will be able to achieve with fusing this weapon. In my personal opinion, I feel like something like flight time plus 1 second and reloading time will be the best for you. Maybe also something like that missile turning radius, because this missile is very maneuverable already compared to something like the Pyre. Again, if we whip out the Pyre here once more, and we just, let's put on a radar to this thing as well, then you will be able to see that the, you know what, let's put it right there, that's fine. You will be able to see that the sort of turning radius of each of the missiles are quite different. If we just go ahead and aim ourselves right there, and then I don't even know, can we actually do that with holding down Alt? We can. As you can see, one missile, bam, will reach the destination quite a lot earlier than the Pyre. The Pyre won't even be able to make it there. And also, if we can actually show this, I think, in an even better way if we mount them to the cabin and we mount them pointing upwards, then we should be able to get a pretty good idea of what I mean with this. The overall flight time of the missiles also seems, or the flight speed of the missiles also seem to favor the, there we go. As you can see, also seems to favor the Flute quite a lot. So it seems to be substantially faster, honestly, which is quite interesting, but it also just curves much better than the Pyre does. As you can see, when the Pyre comes down from a much higher altitude, meaning that it had to take a bigger curve in order to get to the target. Where did the Pyre even go this time? Oh, we're not, wait, there we go. Well, there we go. As you can see, the Pyre moves quite a lot higher, so because it cannot turn as fast. So missile turn radius might also be interesting to get with the Flute, so that you can hit targets easier. You can bend them around corners and stuff like that and hit people hiding behind targets. But that was pretty much it for today's video, guys. I really hope you could enjoy this, or you did enjoy this breakdown of the Flute missile. At least I enjoyed doing this a lot. So let me know if you can use this for future, and we will try to do this even more. I just thought this weapon is simply too interesting to just leave out and not talk about. Catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one until then. Bye bye.